Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Fast Freddie here, and with me is my friend Jack Wollitz. Jack,
Hi, Fred.
a great fisherman and also author. And the reason Jack is here today is we want to talk about one of my favorite events. It is time again for the United Way Muransky Corporation Bass Classic. And Jack, we've been doing this now for how long?
This is our 21st event. 21 years we've been doing it. Actually started in 2000. We had to skip a year because of COVID, but so this is number 21.
It's been fantastic, and this is one of the most unique fundraisers that you'll find out there. Why don't you give us a little bit of the history of the Bass Classic and how this all got started?
Well, it started back in 2000 when United Way here in Youngstown decided that they wanted to try a different kind of a fundraising event to engage a different segment of the community. So, they had their golf tournament, and they had other events that they had over the years, different kinds of dinners. And they said, well, why don't we try a bass tournament? So because of my involvement in the fishing business, they asked me if I knew anything about putting on a bass tournament, and we did, and we put it together, and we've been going nonstop except for COVID every year since.
And this is kind of a unique event. And once you guys started this, other people started to jump on the bandwagon and get on these United Way Bass Classics.
Yeah, a number of them have. Even over in Crawford County, the Meadville area in Pennsylvania, there's a Bass Classic that's been going on over there for almost as long as ours because they saw the success of the Muransky Company's Bass Classic.
How this whole thing works. They might not be familiar with a bass tournament and how this whole thing works. Explain the whole thing behind it.
Well, we have teams of anglers. We call them pros and amateurs. The pros basically are the guys that have the bass boats and the experience, the tournament experience, and bass fishing know-how. And then the amateurs are people like business people from around the community and other people who are interested in sort of tournament style bass fishing. So each team then is allowed to bring in 5 fish that they catch during the day on Evans and Pine Lakes, which Aqua, Ohio graciously allows us to
two of the
use.
best bass fishing lakes in Ohio. And that's one thing about this tournament is you don't get to fish these lakes that often. And sometimes it's just once a year you get a shot at that. And I know there's some 5-6 pounders in there too.
Absolutely. So the teams bring in their 5 fish, and at the end we weigh everybody's catch, and the heaviest catches are the people who win. 5 fish last year on Pine Lake went 23, almost 24 pounds. So that's over a 4-pound average, which if you know anything about bass fishing in Ohio, a 4-pound bass is a really nice fish. And on Evans Lake, the weight was almost the same. So both lakes produced very well.
And it's great, man. This is one of the events that I look forward to every year. And now over the years, we have had a lot of different competitors in here. We've had pro athletes. We have a lot of pro bass fishermen that jump in on this thing. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, we have great media celebrities too, like yourself.
The greatest, not the greatest. Come on, let's get that right.
Actually, Freddie, you shared in a victory.
A couple times.
Two victories over the years.
Two-time champion.
Two-time champion, Fast Freddie. Awesome. Mm-hmm. So basically, yeah, we've had some members of the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've had, a lot of guys who fish professionally. Destin DeMarion, who is from Western Pennsylvania. He fished the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Yeah, Team Dura-Edge. I got to make sure I get the plug in there
Team
for
Dura-Edge, who happens to be partnered up with your son Tyler this year.
Right.
So
right.
maybe you and your partner Mike Glendenning and also. We have another media person.
Oh, here you go. Now, this is the king of all media. He's kind of like the Howard Stern. I know you have your column in the Vindy and the Trib. You've written a book, but I mean, there's nobody out there when it comes to Rick Henniger from Fish and Field Report. He is in a league of his own.
Right. The editor and publisher of Fish and Field Report, Rick Henniger, is going to be fishing with Joe Walters, who has Autumn Addiction Archery up in Cortland. There'll be a team this year too. So I think we ought to have the Wokes versus the Henninger combo there. Maybe some kind of a competition a side bet, if you will.
Definitely, definitely. And I know Tyler and Destin last year were a little disappointed. They were like one fish out of it, and I think they had one right at the end that fell off the hook, or whatever the hard luck story is. But yeah, those two guys, and then with Rick Henniger, and it is going to be, we got to come up with some kind of a bet.
Absolutely.
Now see, Tyler's my son. Now back in the day, I was able to fish with him and stuff, but he's elevated his game to like, he doesn't even want to be bothered with me. He thinks I'm dead weight.
Well, but he's a chip off the old block. He's very enthusiastic, just like you are. And I know you obviously gave him a good foundation in fishing, because I've gone fishing with him too.
Yeah.
And let me tell you that he is extremely competitive, doesn't take losing well at all.
No.
But that's part of the game. I mean,
right.
I think there's a natural competitive streak in anybody who fishes. Even going back to the days when before there were tournaments, people always came back to the dock and bragged about, I caught a big one, or mine's, my walleye was bigger than your walleye, or what have you. So there's always that competitive thing. And sure. Fishermen like to tell tall tales.
Right, right. But you can't tell too many tall tales here, because you can't lie once we pull out that scale.
Right.
It comes right down to it. Never lies. So you know right there what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's been a blast over all these years. Oh, that poor guy that's going to be on that boat with Henniger, though. He's going to have an earful by the end.
Well, Rick's a pretty good crappie fisherman.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of his specialty.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up catching a lot of crappies on Evans Lake, and maybe he'll let Joe catch all the bass. I don't know, and he'll probably catch a northern pike. I already warned him.
Yeah.
That the lake has got a ton of big northern pike.
Oh yeah, those are fun to catch too, but unfortunately they don't count for the end of the thing. Now, people. We're all booked up for this year, right?
Yeah, the tournament is full for this year, but people can get involved in next year's event, and we'll be letting people know via my column, and you on the air. Right. I'm sure can drop some messages too.
We were talking about this thing. Now, if you're a guy that wants to learn more about bass fishing too, and maybe you have a passing interest, or you want to learn more, this is a good tournament to get into, because you're going to learn a lot of things from these guys. And I think one of the reasons that Tyler's so good, and me just fishing in this, it has increased my bass fishing game immensely. When you're out with guys like you, when you're out with these pros, and then all of a sudden you start getting a little more confidence on throwing different lures. And sometimes if you're a beginning fisherman, or the sit on the dock with the white bucket kind of guy, but you want to take your game to the next level, sometimes when you see these lures or whatever out there, and there's so many of them, and there's so many for different applications, you're a little hesitant, and you have no confidence on even casting them, because you're used to throwing a bobber out there or a minnow and catching fish, and you hate to get out of that little comfort zone. But then when you start fishing with guys that know what they're doing, and you see these different lures, and all of a sudden, the guy will tell you, okay, now listen, you got to flick this way or bounce it off the bottom. And then when you catch that big fish, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this stuff works. I see. And then you continue to improve your game from there. So if you're like one of those people, and you're in that category, this is a good thing for you to get into. Plus, you're helping the United Way. So that's a good thing. Now, let's talk a little bit about your book. You have a book out. Jack's got a book out. It's called The Common Angler, and it just covers people. There's a common denominator between all fishermen, and it doesn't matter if you're a guy that sits on the dock and likes to go out on Saturday afternoon and doesn't care if you really catch anything, serious bass anglers, and it's fishing, just pros, it just covers every walk of life. That's one thing about fishing, is it covers every walk of life. You got millionaires, you got guys on huge boats, you guys got guys that are retired and sit on the dock, and little kids and everything. So since the book is called The Common Angler, what is that common element between all these people?
I think it's something that's really, if you're a person who is interested in fishing and you become really active in it, I think that we have something in our DNA, something that connects us to the water, that makes us want to know what's under that water and to experience the opportunity to engage with the animal life that lives there. Um, I mean, I remember even as a 5-year-old going out and being fascinated by watching the bluegills swimming around the dock or around a rock in the lake, in the pond, wherever I was fishing, and being sort of so interested in figuring out how I could get those bluegills to bite my little piece of worm
Right.
on a hook. How fascinating that was. And so I think, and that's, you succeed once or twice, and then you figure out how to do it a different way. And maybe you branch out to try to catch them on an artificial lure as opposed to using live bait. And then pretty soon you're casting out into the great unknown, way off the dock. You're not just fishing around the poles, and then you're catching the bigger fish and different varieties, different species. And I think it all comes down to having a really sort of an engagement with what it is that's under the water and how you can figure out how to get involved with that. And
Yeah.
when you succeed,
Oh,
when you
yeah.
succeed, it's the ultimate reward.
Yeah. Fishing hooks you. You hook
Yeah.
a fish and then fishing hooks you.
Absolutely.
Now, where can they find a copy of your book? Do you have a website or is it in the stores? Where could they find a copy of this?
Barnes and Noble has signed copies. You could get it on Amazon. The quickest way to get it actually is to go to the publisher's website. The publisher is Fayetteville Mafia Press. Fayetteville, like in the city in different states. Fayetteville
Mafia, like Youngstown.
like Youngstown Press. All compacted, all 3 words compact. FayettevilleMafiaPress.com. And if you order the book online from the publisher, you get a signed copy from me.
Awesome.
So that's really a nice way to get it. People have been telling me that it's really sort of been very entertaining reading.
Oh, yeah, it really is. And it's an easy read. And like we had mentioned before, it's all people from different walks of life and different levels of fishing skills or whatever. And then you just boil it down to have a common denominator.
Right. And, we had some interesting chapters about people who are from around the Youngstown area, some people who are very successful fishermen. And then we talk about how even big time sports athletes like Wade Boggs, what gets them involved in fishing too. So, I mean, it was very interesting to do the book and very rewarding when I found a publisher to take it on.
Yeah.
And it's been out now for a year and sales continue. So it's been fun.
Awesome book. Awesome book. So let's talk a little bit here real quick about what's going on locally on the fishing scene. What kind of reports are you getting? What's the scoop on what's been happening around Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania here in the last few weeks?
Well, Lake Erie is always a popular destination. So
my favorite.
Absolutely. And there's so much good fishing up on Lake Erie. The smallmouth are in close to shore, all along the coastline of Ohio and Pennsylvania.
My favorite time of the year. Oh, I love that.
Unbelievable. I just hope that people who go up and experience that fantastic smallmouth fishing respect the resource. And
yes,
it's right now it's catch and release for smallmouth in Ohio and in Pennsylvania. So, it's okay to catch them. Please release them as in good shape as possible.
Yeah, if I'd like to throw in there too, if you're really looking for a smallmouth guide, our buddy Destin DeMarians, he will put you on some big fish, whether you like to fish in the Buffalo area, whether you like to, Put-in Bay area, or not Put-in Bay, Presque Isle Bay area. This guy knows smallmouths, boy. And I'll tell you what, it is just so much fun to you hook into one of them 5-pound smallmouths on Lake Erie. There's nothing better than that.
Absolutely.
I can't think of anything better. And we are sitting on, when Destin like posts all his pictures and videos and stuff, I'm almost like, shh, we don't want everybody to know about this. But I mean, the cat's out of the bag, of course. But
cat's out of the bag, and Destin is one of the best.
Yeah.
You could find him. He lives now up near Erie, Pennsylvania. Destin DeMarian is his name. Google him, and I'm sure you'll find.
Or shoot me a message. I'll look you up.
Get a hold of Freddie too.
Okay, so besides a smallmouth on Lake Erie, let's continue on.
Mosquito Lake has been hot all spring for largemouth bass and crappies. The vegetation is already taking growth at the lake, and the largemouth are just packed in the vegetation. Sometimes you have to look for them a little bit, but when you find them, it's always good fish there.
Now that's an ongoing debate on Mosquito Lake right now about the vegetation. What do you feel about that?
My personal opinion is they should leave the vegetation alone, let nature run its course. Adding chemicals to the water and And doing things like that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I know that there's going to be a compromise sometime between the Corps of Engineers and the Division of Wildlife and the people who use the lake either for boating or for fishing. And there's kind of even the walleye fishermen, they don't like the vegetation. But the vegetation is actually providing a nursery for the very foundation of the food chain that is making mosquitoes so good right now. The walleye population is maybe a little bit down this year because of different factors related to the weather and the success of the survival of the fish that they stock. But overall, it's in good shape. Pima tuning.
Oh, one of the best.
One of the best. Pima tuning's walleye fishing has been very good this spring. The largemouth and smallmouth fishing has been good, and the crappie fishing has been good. For big game, Lake Milton has tons of muskies. I caught a 2-footer the other day, which looks like a snake compared to the to the 4-footers that you see sometimes.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
it was interesting. And West Branch, of course, is an outstanding muskie lake. Always a good
one of the best. Yeah,
for people who want to catch muskies. And our old standbys, Berlin and Milton, they have their good days and their tough days. But for the most part, if you get some experience and work those waters, you'll find a lot of fish to catch there.
Yeah, no, Tyler was really down on Milton the last couple times, and then in your column last week, you said, "Boy, I'll tell you what, if you want to get some smallmouth action, you get out there to Milton." He branded you as fake news. He said Jack is fake news.
Yeah, well, Tyler's a young guy. He'll learn. Some days are good. Some days, you just have to work harder. Right?
Well, I'm just glad you didn't mention anything about Shenango, because I don't like to let the cat out of the bag about that place. That's one of my favorites.
That's one of my favorites too. But it's a great lake.
Yep.
And it's full of bass. It's full of crappies, and largemouth and smallmouth bass, and tons of crappies.
Now, lately there's been a lot of talk about the Mahoning River, and they're revitalizing the river, and they're taking the dams out. And I know there's been a controversy between kayakers and fishermen. Now, what has been the impact on the river, or has there been, since they removed a lot of these dams? Have you noticed? Because I know you were one of the early people that was fishing the Mahoning River way before anybody even knew about it. When you were working at the Vindicator and stuff, I know you were sneaking out and going downtown and catching some big fish, and you had the whole place to yourself. What's the whole scoop on the Mahoning River, or your take on that?
I think the river is a great resource for the Youngstown Warren area, for sure. Fishing is good the whole stretch of the river, whether you're above, the Mahoning River actually rises in Alliance, and the headwaters coming into the top of Berlin Reservoir, it gets a great walleye and white bass run every spring. Below the dam, from Berlin Dam down to Lake Milton, that's the Mahoning River as well, and that gets a great walleye and white bass run in the springtime. Smallmouth bass fishing is good throughout the Mahoning River system, all the way down to its confluence with the Shenango River to form the Beaver River, south of Newcastle. So now the removal of some of the dams has been good in terms of restoring the sort of the free-flowing nature, and they've done some dredging to pick up some of the sediment that's in the bottom of the lake that's left over from the river's century of service as an industrial river.
Right.
But the smallmouth fishing is fantastic. Now, a lot of times it's good right at the base of some of those dams because it's creating a fresh oxygenated water from the water that's spilling in, and so that's a good thing for the fishing. The dams are tough though for the people who want to kayak, so they have to portage around them, and they can be dangerous too.
Yeah,
if you washed over a dam, you can be caught in that hydraulic effect there and be there for a long time. So, I think overall they've made a lot of progress in terms of removing some of the particularly dangerous dams. Lowellville, the village of Lowellville, is investing in creating access and convenience for kayakers there. So overall, I think I see a good future for the Mahoning River.
Awesome. Well, I think we got everything covered. So I will see you June 4th, Evans Lake, the United Way Bass Classic, our 22nd annual.
Yeah, yeah.
22nd annual. We've been doing this now for 22 years, and it's always a great time. Listen, everybody, it happens the same weekend every year. Make plans for next year to be a part of this. And if you're a guy that wants to get out there and fish and really wants to take your bass game to the next level, that's cool. And if you're an established bass fisherman, you probably know about this anyways. And so we want you to come on out. So Jack, I will see you there.
Thanks, Fred.
Rick Henniger, Destin DeMarion, Tyler Woke, look out. I'm coming for you. We're walking away. I'm a two-time champion.
Hey, don't forget me.
Oh, you want in on this now. You want a piece of me. You want a piece of me now. But anyways, two-time champion. Now, Jack is, how many times have you won?
I won once.
Okay, you won one. Oh, so I got one up on you.
Yeah, you do.
Oh man, so I could, really take the lead this time around. Now, a lot of tough fishermen out there, a lot of great guys, and keep that in mind for next year. And of course, our next podcast here will have all the updates, or I'll be talking about it on Y103. So Jack, thank you
Thanks,
for
Fred.
stopping by as always, and I am looking forward to next Saturday when we get her done.
Good. Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate it.